Welcome, everybody, back to episode number 12 of the Cover 2 show, presented by Tigervision. I'm Patrick Neal. With me, as always, Grayson Mann. And we've got some news to get to. We started bowl week. I'm sorry, bowl season this past week. So we've got a few games to get to there. But probably got to start with some transfer madness. I mean, we've talked about it a little bit. There have been a ton of transfer portal. It's basically free agency now within college football. But Grayson, do you want to get a little more specific on it?
Yeah, we got our first we got my guy specifically that we've crowned as like my second favorite team according to Patrick all year. So Bo
Of
Nix
course.
is going to Oregon, which I didn't think that was going to be the case, especially because they have a mix of I think they have like Ty Thompson and they had Anthony Brown there. So I was really like,
Hmm.
guys not and I found it very ironic that his first game as an Auburn Tiger was against Oregon. So it's very full circle for him. I like the move though because I think the Dan Lanning going with the SEC and then his offensive coordinator from his freshman year, where I think he found his like really a start his most success besides a pretty solid year this year. I like the move, especially because the Pac-12 will be a lot easier for him to have success. It'll probably be a step down from the SEC competition if I had to imagine, besides USC in a couple years. But it'll be really good for him to just get healthy and be able to have a healthy competition and then really be able to take over as one of the top Pac-12 quarterbacks, which for his draft stock he'll really need. So I don't know if you thought like in terms of the NFL, but it's definitely a fascinating move.
Yeah. There's definitely some SEC going to the Pac-12 now with Dan Lanning, Bo Nix, and even wannabe SEC, I guess, and Lincoln Riley. Although I guess he wanted to get away from that. But yeah, I think it's a good spot for Bo Nix. I think he's meeting up with his former offensive coordinator Kenny Dillingham, who was with him in 2019, I believe, was the year. But yeah, like I said, he's gonna get some sick uniforms. We kind of talked about that last week. Grayson was
Drip.
hating on me for it, um, but maybe that's why he wanted to go. He just to get all the gear. Because I mean, Under Armour probably provides for Auburn, but not as much as probably Nike provides for Oregon. So,
I don't think anybody
but
on that level provides for teams like Oregon does. It is maybe
yeah,
Cincinnati's
probably
TikTok.
not. Probably not. But there have been a lot of transfer quarterbacks. So Grayson and I kind of thought, we should probably talk about who do we think is going to have the biggest impact. I mean, there's still a couple quarterbacks who have yet to declare where they're going yet. You've got Calzada and Keaton Slovis, who have both yet to say where they're going. But you've got Bo Nix at now Oregon. You've got Rattler going to South Carolina. Adrian Martinez, the always Heisman dark horse, going to Kansas State in the Pac-12. You got Dylan Gabriel going to UCLA. Casey Thompson is pretty much set to go to TCU with Sonny Dykes, and you've got Max Johnson also going to Texas A&M. So Grayson, who out of all those big names, who do you think's going to have the biggest impact?
It's like the lottery. It is unlike I think we've ever seen before, and I think NIL. I know that you. I wanted to just jump off, use it as a jumping off point, but I think the whole likeness and the brands and all that I think has made a significant impact. It's made college football more of a business than it ever has been. So these quarterbacks
Hmm.
are essentially making business decisions. You got someone like Dylan Gabriel who's going to a bigger market at UCLA. Adrian Martinez is going to just find some more stability because we don't really know what Nebraska is going to be. Hope they're trending in the right direction. You have Max Johnson, who, in my opinion, I'm really excited about that. I didn't realize how efficient he was at LSU in that last year, but now he's going to a place that Jimbo Fisher, they had an absolutely unreal recruiting class. They're doing something that I didn't think was going to be possible, but never doubt with Jimbo. I think between him and Gabriel, the only thing that I am concerned about with Dylan Gabriel is what happens to Dorian Thompson Robinson because he seems like the bona fide starter at UCLA. So there must be something happening because I don't think Gabriel would have made that decision if there was going to be that big of a roadblock in the way.
Yeah, I want to say DTR still has another year of eligibility, and he's probably going to stay. I assume. I assume he's not going to the draft, but I don't know. He could come up with some. But I think personally, for me, if Shane Beamer can get Rattler's mindset right and really turn him into a leader, which I think he's always kind of been lacking. Um, as with those other players, I think Rattler has the opportunity to be the best transfer quarterback. I mean, you've he was the highest rated recruit out of all these players, and I really think if he is able to provide for this South Carolina team, then they could become they could move into the like second tier of the SEC East, kind of like the Tennessees, the Kentuckies, even the Floridas now, who might not be able to compete as much with Georgia, especially after this past year. But I really, I haven't always been the biggest fan of Spencer Rattler, but I think this year was kind of something where he got humbled a little bit after getting benched, and maybe it works out for the better for him.
Yeah, I think that him going to Columbia, I mean, you start the year. I assume he checks the internet every now and then. I mean, people were saying he was going to be the number one overall pick, going to the Texans or the Jaguars or whatever the heck it was, whatever team was going to be the bottom feeder. He was going to be the lock, him and Sam Howell. So then you go from that to getting benched. Like you said, you get that nice slice of humble pie. I think Shane
Hmm.
Beamer is probably the perfect coach to because he obviously has the talent, he has the skills to be able to be successful. If he can become more of a leader, then and not only will scouts really like to see that, I think South Carolina could greatly impact from a big branded name like Rattler because he's come from the QB1 stuff, the Oklahoma, Lincoln Riley. He's been tied to all of that. You bring that to South Carolina, have a successful season, it could do wonders for the program. So I think that that would be probably in terms of impact. He'll have probably the most impact on that program. I'm not sure if South Carolina is ready to take that next step, but maybe we'll see. I mean, they've showed a lot of improvement this year.
They beat both Auburn and Florida this year.
Yeah.
Two uh, normally very good SEC teams. So you never know. But I also like assuming that Casey Thompson is going to go to TCU. I also like that move a lot. I mean, you've got Sonny Dykes, who has coached very good offensive teams at SMU for a few years now. You've got Casey Thompson, who started out when he became the starter, very good. It
Yeah.
was looking like Texas was back.
Don't say it,
Um,
Patrick. Don't say it.
it's almost like saying like Voldemort or something from Harry
It's like a
Potter.
trap.
Yeah, yeah. As soon as you say it, bad things happen. But he was looking very dynamic, like a very good playmaker. And now that Quinn Ewers is going to Texas, I guess he is also another
Yeah.
potential top candidate for who's going to have the biggest impact as a transfer QB. But Casey Thompson is I think a very good move for TCU.
Yeah. Do you think Martinez at Kansas State, who's always been fine at Nebraska, just hasn't really had the best roster around him? Do you think going to a better, more stable program really we'll see like a huge leap in development, or do you think that we'll probably see the same? He reminds me of what like Jalen Hurts is in the NFL right now in terms of like production, is that they're
Hmm.
able to do both things, but there's not really anything. You're not really blown away by what you see, but you can recognize that there's talent and potential there.
I mean, there's definitely potential for him to do really well. The only issue is Kansas State has not been a very convincing top tier program for a few years now. It'll be interesting to see how Scott Frost does without because he's only coached with Adrian Martinez at quarterback. It'll be
Yeah.
interesting to see how he turns his program around, or maybe even doesn't turn his program around. In all honesty, but I think it was kind of a necessary change for both parties, both Martinez and Nebraska as a whole, because it clearly wasn't working. I mean, Nebraska they lost 9 games this year. Only I want to say every single one by single digits.
Yeah.
Um,
I think the Ohio
and
State one was by 9, but it was close the entire time.
yeah, I mean, but I think it just wasn't working out for either side.
Hello
So
to all of
both sides get kind of a fresh start, and I think he's got potential. I mean, we everybody was talking about him being a Heisman contender for a reason a
Yeah.
few years ago, but I don't know. Kansas State isn't the biggest of programs, but maybe you can bring him back to the glory days.
Maybe so. Maybe so. All right. Now, something that caught my eye this week was the addition to Jackson State's program, Coach Prime, Travis Hunter. I I'm blown away by this because not only did Florida State get kicked in the face harder than anybody did this week, because that was the number one guy in the country. That was the guy that
Hmm.
could make plays on both sides of the ball. I watched some of his tape too, just because I'm not as big into recruiting as some other college football guys. And I watched him play and I was like, oh my God, this guy Dion Sanders is getting a player. And he said in an interview, he was saying that the country was going to take notice soon. And he was not lying. Whether you want to say there was stuff with the NIL deal with Barstool or something like that, regardless, it is going to make a significant impact on Jackson State's program. This is going to be exciting to watch.
Oh yeah, it really is. And what's crazy is he's been committed to FSU, at least verbally committed, since June of 2020. So and it looked like he was going to stay with Florida State throughout all their turmoil. I mean, they haven't had the greatest of uh, this hasn't been the greatest football era for Florida State recently, but this is a crazy win for HBCUs as a whole. I mean, there's gonna be question marks. A lot of people were freaking out because of he's playing now in an FCS and won't get the level of competition he would get at Florida State. But that's not to say people college football play or I'm sorry NFL players haven't come from FCS Division II schools and been successful in the NFL. I mean, you've got like Trey Lance was just picked as a top 5 pick recently
Yeah.
in the past NFL draft. So I don't think the level of competition is going to be necessarily as big a factor as I think people think. The only thing is, you saw Dion Sanders getting looked at for potential head coaching jobs the recently with the likes of uh, even TCU, I believe.
Yeah.
Reaching out to him. But uh, obviously, Dion has done something right with recruiting because he just got the number one player in the country.
He is unbelievable pull, and I think that himself as a brand is so big, and just like going. I mean, you had Jackson State who filled out their entire stadium for an FCS game, and you're like, okay, like they're doing something really special. And I think that if people are worried about him not getting any NFL looks or stuff like that, you have players like Darius Leonard who went to South Carolina State. You have people Kyle Duggar who's starting safety for the Patriots went to Lenore Ryan, which is Division III football.
Hmm.
So you have people that have gone in these non-traditional routes and made it. And I think it's really it'll do really well for these players that they don't get necessarily offers from Alabama or Georgia or Clemson, and they go to these smaller schools and make it work and then make it work in the NFL. I think it's just big for HBCUs. It's big for smaller schools overall. This is a big move that's going to change the landscape of college football in a big way. Coach Prime's he's making splashes.
Yeah, I mean, I want to kind of ask you your thoughts on this. Do you think this is something that it's kind of happened in basketball a little bit, but do you think this is something that kind of sparks a greater trend of players going to HBCUs, or do you think it's more just like a singular occurrence?
I think it's tough to say because Dion Sanders is a very much a rarity. He's like an abnormality in terms of like he's such a larger than life figure, and then him going to an HBCU is so like you usually when you think of Dion Sanders, you think of like the NFL and like these big jobs. So Jackson State I don't think many people, unless they like went there, they knew about HBCUs, knew what like the program was and what they're about. They've gotten a lot of national recognition. I think it'll do a lot for HBCUs in general, just because it's more of like a trend and it could start something. So if we start seeing more top recruits going to these smaller schools and these HBCUs, be great for the sport because you get more of these programs getting the bigger guys, bigger slices of the pie. So, I'm just not sure yet. I think we need to see more of, this happening before I can make an official, "Oh, this is gonna change college football," but it's definitely heading in the right direction.
Yeah, I mean, the NIL has definitely impacted how high school athletes choose where to go to college. I mean, if if the NIL is going to continue to do stuff like this, where high profile athletes are choosing, I guess, smaller schools to go to, whether or not that's because of the NIL or because they're going to be the signature athlete. Meanwhile, at a school like Alabama, you're among, I don't know, 40 other 5 stars or whatever. That's a bit of an exaggeration, but you get my point.
Yeah.
I think it's good for the college football landscape because it's only going to make it more competitive. I know that HBCUs aren't going to be that. I mean, they aren't going to be competing for playoff spots in because one, they're in the FCS, a lot of them. But um, if it's, I'm all for making college football more competitive. I mean, we've seen this year how how much parity has been in
Yeah.
this year of college football, the first year of NIL, and uh, not the first year of the transfer portal, but definitely this year has been the most impacted by the transfer portal. So I'm all for not having the same four teams really in the playoff every year like we've had the past 5, 6, 7 years.
Yeah, and it really makes it a story too, and you have to look at like the headline aspect. If Travis Hunter had flipped from Florida State to Alabama, you'd have been like, all right, fine, like who saw that one coming? But now you kind of have to like think about the what if and how the what if is always going to dominate the story because now we have to ask how does this impact college football as a whole? What if HBCUs are going to get more attention as a result of this? There is so much to it, and I love it. It is such a fascinating topic, especially because you have someone like Dion Sanders who is outspoken. He provides for his guys. He's got a clear message for the program. And I'll tell you this. It was a weekend where I could have easily napped when I had free time, but I watched the Celebration Bowl because I wanted to see what they're all about. And it is fun. They got some really talented players down there, Jackson State and South Carolina State, who ended up winning that game.
They did
It
get
was,
smacked. Yeah, I was gonna say
yeah.
Jackson State did get kind of smacked,
I was like, thank God he
but
committed before.
maybe that would have changed his mind. But yeah, that was kind of funny to see how they got this big win. They were almost like too focused on it and weren't
Maybe.
prepared for the game. But um, yeah, Florida State fans were really mad at Dion, which was very funny to see. I mean,
He went to
like
Florida State too, so it's like, you
I
traitor.
I know I saw them burning jerseys. I saw one video where they were burning like a signed Dion Sanders Florida State jersey. And I'm like, what are you doing?
Dude.
That
Oh,
that
jeez.
you're gonna regret that in like 2 hours. What is that? I mean, in all honesty, like if Mike Norvell doesn't work out, I mean it's too early to tell. He hasn't been there too long. But like if Mike Norvell ends up getting fired, Dion is going to be one of the first names to come up for a Florida State coaching job. So like it could very well be that I mean people have talked about how like Dion is potentially at Jackson State for like another year or two, and then wherever he goes, maybe Travis Hunter follows, or whatever the case is.
Yeah. That's funny because you're gonna have fans who are gonna be burning jerseys and making mean comments on social media, and then the second that he gets that opportunity, they're gonna be like, please come help our program
Oh
out.
yeah,
Like, do
uh,
whatever you can.
so social media's made everybody's uh, like armchair general managers, armchair quarterbacks, armchair coaches, and it's everybody is so quick these days to turn on coaches, to turn on players, to turn on teams as a whole. Everybody is so reactionary, and you got to have success like that. It's got to
Yeah.
come instantly, or you're going to become mad. And Florida State still has a top 15 class. They have the best class in Florida, so they were still able to get plenty of good recruits.
Yeah. I mean, Florida State's not a team, especially with the last couple of years, and I know we're kind of diverging from like but Travis Hunter makes it that conversation kind of expand. But Florida State, they're not a program that's overnight going to go back to what they were in 2013. This is going to take a little while, especially going through their second coach in this rebuild and then having to deal with Clemson. Cristobal's coming to Miami. There's Pittsburgh and Wake Forest have gotten much better. NC State's always going to be competitive. So you have to really just kind of take it one step at a time. And having the best recruiting
Hmm.
class in Florida is that first step. And now it's just about on the field and how we build the culture. So yes, losing Travis Hunter is going to hurt, but it's not going to screw them over like I think Florida State fans believe.
Yeah. If we want to kind of transition from one
Yeah.
kind of smaller school to another one, Western Kentucky had their quarterback Bailey Zappi break the single season in both single season passing yards and single season touchdown throws. Now, this was a crazy game to watch. if anybody was able to pay attention to this game, it was super cool to see Zappy. He broke the passing yards record in the first half. It was only like 33 or so yards away from 6,000 in total, but I believe Western Kentucky took him out of the game towards the end. But
Yeah.
this was awesome to see. Uh, maybe this gets him even some looks in at the pro level in the NFL.
Yeah, I mean, this unreal offensive production. I know a lot of people are going to come out and say, well, they don't really play anybody as compared to Joe Burrow, and he played all the SEC teams. It's still an unbelievable level of production that you have to do week on week on week. It's, and I think a lot of people, and he's going to be an unknown name to most. I don't think many people even believe that his Joe Burrow's record was going to be broken because who's going to be watching Western Kentucky on a weekly basis instead of watching LSU or something like that? But what an unbelievable accomplishment for a kid that's not going to get the recognition he deserves. Because then I immediately, in my head, I saw this, oh, he's going to break the record. And I said, why isn't he in New York? And then I realized Western Kentucky. I mean, it's unfortunate,
It,
but I
it
think it can't be taken away from the accomplishment of breaking those unbelievable records.
Yeah, I mean, he broke both of them, which is kind of crazy. Like
Yeah.
Burrow was only able to break the touchdown record. He came close to the total yards record
Yeah.
or to the passing yards record, but didn't break it. The passing yards record, I should say, was previously held by B.J. Simons at Texas Tech, and it I was looking at Western Kentucky's quarterback play the past few years, and Zappy has been by far their best quarterback in a few years. Like nobody the past, I don't know, I want to say like 3 4 5 years really threw for over like 2,000 3,000 yards. So it's not like I mean still impressive, but it's not like they were putting up these otherworldly numbers at a school like Texas Tech, who has a lot of really um, who has a lot of high passing yard seasons because they like to throw the ball so much. So I think it almost speaks more to Zappy's ability because Western Kentucky was able to lean on his ability as a passer, and lean on his ability to make plays and uh, really be the difference for Western Kentucky.
Yeah, and like you pointed out earlier with the statistics, it's not like he was just inserted into this unworldly offense and then he was just a product of it. He made it what it is, and it's
Exactly.
unfortunate that he's probably not going to get the same amount of attention or love that let's say DJ broke those records this year. He would be hailed as the greatest human being since greatest thing since sliced bread. So you would unfortunately he didn't even come to a fraction of that, which sucks. But
It's very
still,
unfortunate.
it's an unbelievable record, and you go back and watch some of his tape and his highlights. The kid can sling it. I'd love to see him get a shot at the NFL, and people will go, "Hey, this is Zappy who broke all the records, who broke Burrow's touchdown passing record." People are gonna go, "This kid's pretty good. Let's see what he's got."
Yeah, it's especially in a year when there isn't a clear-cut QB1 in the draft, and a lot of draft analysts are saying that it's not a great year for quarterbacks. I mean, I think all five of the quarterbacks taken in this past draft in the first round will be taken before any of the QBs in this year's draft. I think it's fairly
Absolutely.
safe to say.
You could argue
So
that a couple of them could be like, besides Lawrence, number one picks in this draft.
exactly. So I think to maybe taking a flyer on Zappy if he is going to enter the draft. I assume he will at least put his name out there.
I
Um,
would.
would be something to look at as a potential opportunity to get um, to get a sneaky little good player in Bailey Zappi.
We gotta show him some love. We should get him on the show. I'll try to find him. I'll try to find his
We can send him a DM and see if he'd be
Yeah,
willing to. But he might be a little too big time for us now.
he might be, but you know what? We'll do our best.
hmm
We'll do our
There
best.
were a few other really good bowl games. I really like watching the bowl games kind of early on in bowl season because you don't have a lot of opt outs. All the players that are playing uh, want to be there, want to win the game because it is a lot of. I mean, I guess smaller schools. They're still successful programs, but like we had Coastal Carolina. They won controversially,
That was a
very
game.
controversially against Northern Illinois. It was a great game, but to see the clock run out there and Northern Illinois not get at least one shot at the end zone was a
Ugh.
little that hurt a little bit. It was a bit of a bummer, but still a good game overall. You got UAB. They upset BYU, which is a
Yeah.
big win for UAB. They had their
UAB,
program cut in 2014, and
yeah.
it came back in 2017, but just a big win for them.
UAB is a team that usually I pick to like if I'm playing like the NCAA games, it's the team that I pick to kind
Yeah,
of like build into a top tier program because it's such a challenge. So to see a team like that I've played growing up with and then having them just BYU is a big time program. I mean, this is no slouch over team. They were ranked
yeah.
in the CFP top 25. They were, I mean, someone said they should make a 30 for 30 on this because it's so unreal that your program gets cut, you come back, and then you go all the way to beating BYU. I can't imagine how they feel right now at UAB. That's an unbelievable achievement.
hmm Yeah, it's probably one of their biggest wins in program history,
Hmm.
because BYU had a great season, especially after losing Zach Wilson and a lot of other good players for their program. They were ranked number, what was it, 110?
I think that was
Is that what they
13th in
were?
the country, if I wasn't
13?
mistaken. But I
But top 15 program. I guess not anymore because when the final rankings come out, they're gonna drop a little bit. But you had like
guess
Tyler
13th.
Algier. He's had a great season. He went off, but it wasn't enough. I think UAB kind of just wanted to be there a little bit more. It was a rainy day, cloudy, not great conditions. So UAB just fought harder and came out on top.
Came in, they threw a punch, and they came back out with a W. Love to see it from them. Um, we're gonna, especially when we get to the bowl games that kind of progress later into the season, we're gonna have Oregon, Oklahoma, Michigan State, Pittsburgh. You're gonna have a lot of opt outs. You're gonna have a lot of people that we saw this last year, especially with the COVID stuff, um, where people players just like it's not worth it for me to play, and there's always going to be a debate for it about playing and like because you see players like Jalen Smith who were projected as a top 5 pick and then they tear their ACL in the bowl game and they're a second round pick and they lose millions of dollars. So there's an obvious like for Kayvon Thibodeau, is it worth it for him to play in the Alamo Bowl when he's a top 5 pick no matter what he does? It's not like he has to prove anything, which I'm very shocked what that Andrew Booth is playing in the bowl game where there's virtually nothing that goes on there, but he's still playing. He's a top 10 pick in my mind for sure.
I mean, I don't know. I don't know if he'll be a top 10 pick. I think he should be a first rounder, definitely. He should be one of the first DBs off the board, definitely. But it I mean, it's ultimately a player's decision whether or not they want to play. I guess I'm gonna say this without being a college athlete, without being a college football player, that I would play in the bowl game just because
Yeah.
it'd be a cool experience. You get to make one final statement, which is interesting why Kenny Pickett isn't playing when I want to say he's playing in the Senior Bowl. So
Yeah.
that kind of doesn't make a lot of sense, especially with Michigan State's weak passing defense. He could really torch them and put kind of a final stamp as he should be the quarterback one in the draft. But it's one that is always going to be a challenging topic. But I personally, I think would always, or not always, there's going to be exceptions to every rule, but I just because I mean you get a lot of free gear too, which is always going to be nice. I guess if you're going to be an NFL athlete, that doesn't really matter. But
Yeah.
um, I just think playing in a bowl game is something that should have a little more importance on it than it does. I don't know how we fix that because recently, the past few years, uh, bowl game importance, especially with the now college football playoff, has virtually been eradicated. And doesn't really exist as super meaningful anymore. But I don't know how we fix that, but I kind of want to see it uh, go back to a level of importance.
I don't know if it's the CFP kind of making that because it's only two more teams that are in the playoffs. So you have people that are ranked 15, 16. It's not like it's the end of the world to go play in a near six bowl. I feel like that since it's the CFP is kind of in that near six rotation, it's kind of lost its novelty and how special it is. So being in a Fiesta Bowl where the college football playoff is being played in the Orange Bowl, you kind of go, well, I could have been in one place and now I'm in the other. So kind of loses its significance. But hey, you get a free PS5 if you play in the Fiesta Bowl. So
Exactly,
I mean,
exactly.
I want to play the new Spider-Man game in a couple years, so I would take it.
Or the college football game in a few
That's
years
right.
coming out summer 2023. I think is what they announced it as. But
Ooh.
um, yeah, I enjoy bowl season a lot. I just wish it had a little more importance for the players because we get a lot better games. I mean, you had like Cincinnati almost beat Georgia last year,
Yeah.
and Georgia fans are going to say that they didn't care about the bowl game and all that, but a lot of players that were playing in that game for Georgia are starters now for them going into this playoff game. So like it I don't know. I just wish that we had a little more tradition and a little more importance involved in bowl games.
I remember the game last year. It was Florida and Oklahoma in the Cotton Bowl, and it was Kyle Trask. He decided to play after having a fantastic season, and Kyle Pitts and Tony decided not to. I don't know if it's because of injury or just they just. I know Kyle Pitts just opted out, and it looked like a disaster out there for Trask. I just felt so bad for him because he went there, wanted to play one last game with his teammates, and then they got crushed in the Cotton Bowl because Trask didn't have anybody to throw to. It was unbelievable how much the opt outs have impacted games because they'd played Oklahoma and Florida had played in that year. I think Florida would have won, but all the talent that just dropped out and just said, "Nah, I don't want to be a part of it." It just makes such a
Yeah,
big impact.
yeah. I don't know. It's kind of sucky as a situation, but I guess real quickly before we wrap up, we can kind of preview some of the games. Not some of the games besides the New Year's Six and the college football playoff, which we'll probably cover later. I don't know if we'll be doing a show or if an Instagram live. We'll figure that out later. But um, some of the games that we're looking forward to besides kind of the biggest ones, you've got Oregon, Oklahoma, Alamo Bowl, Bob Stoops and Brian McClendon coaching for Oklahoma and Oregon respectively. You've got Kayvon Thibodeau; he's not playing, but two kind of underperforming teams that we're really looking forward to. I think getting a potential playoff spot.
Yeah, but the Alamo Bowl is always exciting though because it starts that excuse me, it starts that just those bowl games start to get elevated. You start to recognize the teams, and you have classics like the one where I think it was TCU had the unbelievable comeback. It was one of those teams. I know TCU was a part of it, but it was like the I don't
I am not sure. I
I
do
I
not
know there's an
remember
Alamo Bowl
exactly,
where there
but
was an unbelievable comeback against a certain team, but I really like Oregon and Oklahoma just as it's a brand matchup. They're gonna have some sick unis. They're gonna come out there. The players that want to play, they'll be there and they'll show up. I'm excited to see how Anthony Brown responds, especially with all the rumors with Bo Nix, and finally it's happening. Does he make a statement and say, "This is my team"? Do we have somebody else like Die make a statement? You have Caleb Williams. How is he responding with all the stuff that's happened in the last month? There's a lot of question marks that I want to see answered in that game.
yeah, that's a good one. And then I think the Battle of the Carolinas in the Duke's
Yeah,
Mayo Bowl. Who will be getting the Mayo bath? I think that's one to
gross.
look at. Yeah, I don't like mayo personally, but I
I like mayo
oh
in
gosh, just like
very
getting
light.
showered with in mayo. Maybe you don't want to win that game. Actually,
Do you coach the game to lose to avoid the mayo bath?
the mayo
That's the
bath.
real question.
Oh, ugh.
Gross.
Yeah. Sam Howell will be playing, which is an interesting point. He's likely going to the draft, but he was asked about it and he said it wouldn't sit right with him if he didn't play. So there's an example of a player, you know, going. Yeah, I think a very valiant decision, and his teammates probably respect him a lot for it. Plus, again, like we said earlier, it's kind of a final statement, final wrap up for your college career before handing in your resume to the NFL and the scouts. But Battle of the Carolinas, I
That'll be fun.
it'll be a fun game for sure. I think UNC will probably pull that one out, but South Carolina has been a good team all year. So at least at least compared to what people probably thought they were going to be at the beginning of the season. So you never know.
Truly never know. UNC is also a team that is going to be like Howell playing is going to boost a lot of that we're not really where we want to be, but we got our guy. I'm excited to see Shane Beamer in his first bowl game. I know being a Clemson fan as a student, that kind of feels like I'm being sent to like the dungeon for that statement, but I really love Shane Beamer. I really love what he's doing there. And with
I enjoy him too.
everything that's happened in the last month for South Carolina after the Clemson game has been fantastic for him. And they're rising in the stock with recruiting. They're getting Spencer Rattler. So I want to see how the team comes out with a new energy and a new purpose. There's going to be a lot of teams, especially with new coaches or new players this bowl season. They're going to come out with new purpose, a lot of new energy. It's going to be very exciting to see, especially because who doesn't love bowl season and just getting these unique matchups every year?
Oh yeah, I love it. Seeing teams that would never play each other otherwise, just getting matched up together. But we also got probably game we should probably talk about because it is Clemson. Um, Clemson playing Iowa State in the Cheez It Bowl. I don't know what that means for students, but I'm hoping to get some free Cheez Its out of it potentially.
Yeah,
That's my snack of
you've
choice
seen.
in
I
my
want to see
dorm.
Dabo Sweeney in a Cheez It commercial. You where they had like the little the Cheez Its and they're like, I want to be the cheesiest coach.
Oh yeah, oh yeah,
And he's
yeah.
talking to
That would
Dabo.
be
I would
nice.
love that.
He's
I
talking to
think
Woo
that
Cheese.
if anyone who's listening to this or watching this in after when this is put up, if you want, I will be in Orlando for the game. So if you want to see a cover two vlog and just like what it's like, I will definitely do it because I have done it for the Patriots Falcons game. So I definitely am not like
I I think that would be some good content we could put out.
I could put on the
Um,
story for sure.
yeah, for sure. But Brees Hall will not be playing in this game, so Brock Purdy's got a lot of weight. He's got to put on. He's got
Yikes.
to put on his backpack and kind of carry that team. Will McDonald, he leads the Big 12 in sacks this year with 11 and a half. He should be playing. And it's a battle of two preseason top 10 teams. Two teams that kind of underperformed have had kind of a similar story. But Clemson gets an opportunity to get to 10 wins after having a kind of a down year. And Iowa State, while they don't have an opportunity to get to 10 wins, they do have an opportunity to kind of end the season on a high note.
Yeah, and Clemson's still a marquee program that you could take down and be able to say, "Hey, we beat Clemson, who's won a national championship in the last couple of years." So there's a lot of. I was surprised at the lack of opt outs from Clemson, which I think speaks. I hopefully does speak to the culture of what Dabo's built there, and players like Booth, who should be a first round pick, like you said, aren't. I mean, the Cheez It Bowl is not like the end all be all for bowls, but it's nice to see that he's going to be playing there. If I had to make a guess, this is the game. I'm gonna say it. This is the game where DJ turns it up because
Oh,
he can
wow.
sense that Cade is coming. He just won the state
Mm-hmm.
championship for Westlake. He can sense that
Yep.
there's that pressure, and I think he needs to have an off season where the wall is his back is to the wall, and he just got to go for it. So this is the game that DJ breaks out and has his hopefully his start to his 2022 Heisman campaign. Crossing my fingers for it.
Bold take.
Bold
Bold
take.
take from Grayson Mann.
The
But I
optimist
like it.
is here for Clemson
I like
football.
it. I like it. I like it. All right. Well, I guess there's no better way to end the episode then.
That's right.
We thank you all as always for tuning in to the episode. We thank Zach who has been able to produce this show for us.
The GOAT.
And I don't know. Another week full of bowl games. We're looking forward to it. 1 week until the college football semifinals. Looking forward to that as well. So we thank you always as for tuning in. And Grayson, any last thoughts?
Just remember what I said so I can keep the receipts for next year.
Yeah, we'll keep the receipts for sure. We'll bring this episode up in a year from now when DJ's sitting in New York next to everybody. But
Maybe.
thank you again as always, and we'll see you all next week. Or we might just be filming on Instagram, but we'll let you all know for sure.
We'll
Have a
figure it
good
out.
week.